morning and welcome to Unity South Central Region's Business Mastermind. I'm Ariana Platten and so thrilled that you are with us today. And if you are here live, thank you. I'm so glad your life worked out that you could do that. And I know many of you are unable to join us live on a Tuesday morning because ministry. There's some things to do. So I'm grateful to the region for making this course and all of our courses available in the archive online. And I always like to take a minute and remind you that we have 3 years of classes that are archived on the Unity South Central Region website. So if you're remembering a class and maybe a situation is up and you're thinking, oh, I really wish I remembered more of what they said in that class, you can jump on the archives. All the sessions for the last 3 years are recorded and on the archive and available to you and available to anybody in the Unity movement, not just the region. So please feel free to recommend that archive to your friends. And if there's something there you can use to go back to it. I most often upload to that archive the slides that I use. And I do that for you because some of the classes that are offered here are worthwhile for your board, are worthwhile for other things that you do. And so I make those slide presentations available to you. They are completely editable so that you can do what you need, because we don't need to gatekeep any information here. This is all information that helps people in our line of work do a better job. And boy, there's a lot of need in today's world for us to do a really good job at what we do. So that this morning is our talk. That's this morning and this month, we'll be talking about how we handle trauma in our spiritual communities. And I want to make sure that you all know that we are 2 sessions, we have 4 sessions left in Steady in the Storm, Part 2, which is another class offered here, another class that I offer here, and it's held on the second Tuesday of the month. So today you're going to get a lot of information. This is going to be a class where you definitely want to download the slides and go back and look at the slides, because this is a one-stop, everything I can tell you about trauma in your community and how to handle not only trauma in your community that comes from other people, but your own trauma, so that you can re-regulate your nervous system, you can step away when you need to, you can choose what kind of activities you're going to be involved in and what you're not, based on your own identification of what's going on with you. But there is more information. If I just read everything on these slides, item by item, that would take our whole hour. So I'm not going to do that today, but I don't like to put too much information on slides, but this is really important stuff. And I decided I was going to give it all to you, and then you can go back and read it. And this particular slide presentation can be really helpful for you working with boards and other organizations within your Unity community, because right now we have lots of reasons to feel trauma. Not only do we have all the things that are going on in the world that are affecting us, but all of those things become the dysregulators that cause other traumas to rise to the surface more easily. And because of that, our communities are a little bit sensitive, more than what we would normally find. And everybody has trauma, right? I mean, we all have things that have happened in our life. But when the world feels uncertain and even frightening, which it can for people right now, then the little things that couldn't escape find a way of catching right here in our throat. And the slightest little disagreement can become something bigger than it needs to be. So let's jump right into how we take care of that and what can be done in that situation. What am I looking for? I'm looking for a slideshow. There we go. All right, my friends. I'm going to move you where I can see your lovely faces at the top of my screen. Cool. All right, shadow and light. That's the place that we start. How do we lead with compassion rather than drowning in other people's pain? So one of the one of the differentiators that I want to point out to you is that empathy, sympathy, and compassion are three very different things. Empathy is our ability to kind of go down in the hole with someone and really connect with them and feel what they're feeling. Because a lot of times we feel empathetic if we have a relatable experience. Empathy can be dangerous to us in the way that we deal with people because once we're feeling what somebody else is feeling, it's easy to project our situation on top of theirs. And our job is to hold a little objectivity. We're always going to be using empathy. Empathy is a really remarkable tool for knowing what not to say, right? So if somebody said to me, I know exactly how you feel, I will never say that to anybody else. You know, empathy takes us to a situation where we can remember the things that hurt us in previous situations. Empathy also helps us to get past our need for things to be reasonable and logical. And it's really important to use empathy with discretion. Sympathy is to feel exactly what we know it to be, to feel sorry for somebody. Oh, I'm so sorry that's happening to you, which has almost no value. What do you say when someone says, I'm so sorry that's happening to you? Oh, thank you. What does that mean? It just doesn't have presence. It's not that sympathy is the wrong thing. We feel it. We feel it for starving orphans. We feel it for lots of people going through divorce. We feel sympathetic. We wish if in our own children, we wish they weren't going through that. We feel sorry that we can't fix it is what's really true, that we can't take it away. That's sympathy. Compassion is a much broader and, in my mind, a more valuable tool because compassion is what you feel when you're standing bedside with a mother who is about to have a baby. You don't feel sorry for her, you feel excited for her. She's about to have a baby. This is a cool, awesome, amazing thing. Just like our processing through trauma really is how we come to the deeper soul understanding of ourself. There's some really good stuff in it. Compassion says, I'll stand right here and hold your hand. I'm here with you. You have to do this. I can't do it for you, but I will be here with you while you do it. And so compassion is more easily accessed, and it's in my mind is a cleaner approach. And I just invite you into the differentiation between those three things. So not so much so that you can focus on it, make sure you're doing it right, but so that you can ask yourself when you're in a session with people or when something has broken out and you happen to have to be the umpire in the middle of whatever is going on, so that you can check in on yourself and remind yourself, I want to be in compassion. I'm walking through this next to you. I don't have to feel this, and I don't have to relive my own similar experience. I can walk with you in this. And that is a really good place to begin understanding how trauma works in our relation in our ministries. I want to give you a little research to start because sometimes we think it's only us or gosh, why am I not handling this more effectively? 70%, according to the Barna Group, 70% of clergy are reporting that they have significant compassion fatigue right now. And that is because we are being called on in a very new way. It's not that we haven't always had the opportunity to walk through difficulties with as ministers with our congregation, but it is a lot right now. The world, as I said, has a lot happening. So 70% of ministers are feeling compassion fatigue, which tells us we have to take better care of ourselves right now. 64% of Americans have at least one childhood trauma that is being likely pushed right now by all of the stuff that's happening in our world. 64% of your congregation has something underneath that's poking at them just because they're feeling poked in general. That's an important thing to know because it affects how people behave. 1 in 3 people say that their congregation is their primary community. 1 in 3 people, which is interesting for us because we see a decline in churches, but these points of research are being done with people who attend, because that's really who we care about right now. This particular topic is not about us going out and finding more people in trauma. It's about us dealing with the people in our congregations who are having experience. So these statistics are based on people who are attending. 1 in 3 in your congregation say this is their primary community. We take all of our stuff to our primary community. It's where we talk about it. It's where it gets processed. It's what causes us to have eruptions. So if you have 150 people, that's 50 people in your congregation who are bringing their stuff to process through your community and through your activities. It's just an important statistic to know, because let's just say you're the one dealing with those 50 people. That's a lot of people. If you have 80 people, it's a smaller group. If you have 50 people, it's a smaller group, but it's still a sizable group of people who are leaning on you right now and needing your presence. So when we speak about self-care alongside trauma as a really important bit of work, we all sign that piece of paper. We all sign the promise that we'll take care of ourselves when we are ordained. And that document is worth going back and revisiting, because our agreement to self-care is much more than just a requirement from unity. It's a requirement for stability, for nervous system regulation, for us to bring our best self forward in service to the communities that we work with. Whoops, we went backward. That's not where we want to go. All right. This is an example of a whole lot of information. So we're going to go through this particular slide because there's a lot here, and you'll want to read this again. Working in a trauma-wise way is not therapy, and it's not diagnosing. It's knowing that you can create an environment where some healing is possible. It is knowing the signs of trauma without needing to name them out loud. We're going to cover those signs today. It's holding space without absorbing the wound. That is compassion, right? Compassion versus empathy. You don't have to feel everything that everyone else is feeling. It's designing your services, your language, any rituals or ceremonies that you do with nervous system awareness. And we're going to talk about that as well. How do you not startle people in whose nervous systems are already jangled and still have fun and still do interesting things? And it's understanding that triggered behavior is not necessarily bad behavior, which can be really hard because we don't often know what the trigger is. And right now, it's pretty safe to assume that most of the conflicts that are going on in your community have some triggered behavior underneath them. People are just being triggered by so many things. There are economic triggers, there are emotional triggers, there are fear triggers, there are all of that. When you just think about the foundational fear and triggers, they're all up. And when you tap the well to fear, everything you've ever been afraid of is there. When you tap the well, the emotional well, everything that has ever made you feel abandoned, unloved, unworthy, whatever it is, all of that becomes available. All of what's held there becomes available. So we as ministers have to move a little bit more slowly in our judgment that behavior is bad and ask a few better questions around what else are you feeling, and is there anything else in your history that's like this situation that maybe is getting pushed on a little bit right now. Sometimes people really don't even know that they're being triggered because it's got them so much up in their head or deep in their heart that the heart and the mind, are not working together. Being the regulated presence in the room is what I hope that you will have tools for when you walk out of here today. How do you re-regulate your nervous system? So, because when someone is regulated, they're calm, they're breathing well, they're centered in their body. And the person who is dysregulated can re-regulate by connecting with you. The energy, literally the energy that emanates from you as the presence of calm is available and contagious and can really help people. Tony Bain was a consultant of mine for a long time. And Tony always says, as a minister, you must be the presence of all is well. Right. And so often I found myself in my head, because that's easy. I can remember that. Ah, yeah, all is well. There's a lot happening here. And all is well. We're going to figure this out and work through it together. But telling myself, hearing those words in my head, all is well, became a habit, a practice, so that I could literally be standing in an uncomfortable moment with people and bring myself back to a particular state, to a particular frequency. So those words are really helpful. What Trauma Wise Ministry is not is taking on the role of a therapist or counselor. There are times now that you will need to send someone out. We are dealing with a lot more than we've dealt with in the past. So it's not your job to be a therapist or a counselor. It's your job to be a minister. And that's a different thing entirely. We say pastoral counseling. Pastoral counseling is really different than therapy. It's presencing, it's praying, it's connecting. It's helping someone feel they belong somewhere and that what is going on for them matters. But the real work of deep therapy sometimes needs to be by someone who is much better trained than we are in that particular field anyway. It is not requiring you to process other people's trauma. It is 100% not your job to take other people's trauma into your body. It's not also walking on eggshells and avoiding difficulties, because there are difficulties and we have to be soft in the front and also have a strong backbone. We have to have a strong enough spine to do the real conversation when things are up, but also to approach it from a heart-based place. And that is a practice that comes to you after years of ministry. And also, once you feel it in your body, once you feel yourself strong in your back and soft in your heart, you can go back to the feeling over and over again. It's until you feel it, it's almost hard to imagine. But if you haven't felt it yet, there will be a moment where you feel your heart is soft, but you're strong and grounded and moving forward in what it is that you need to do. Again, little phrases you can put in your head: soft heart, strong back. That is a whole lesson that you can teach even in your community. We're going to be soft-hearted and have a strong spine. We're going to hold ourselves. And when you say that to people and you have them straighten their spine and open their shoulders so that their heart is forward, that changed posture will make a huge difference for you and for other people. Stand up straight, sit up straight, roll your shoulders back, and bring your heart open. Bring your heart forward. This is how we work together, gently and with strength. Abandoning spiritual depth in favor of emotional management. Woo, is this an easy one to do? Everybody's so emotional right now. I'm not going to teach this really deep lesson because it might trigger somebody more. But when you do that, the people who've been with you for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years don't get their touch in because they're coming for something deeper. They want you to keep taking them deeper. So, is it a bit of mastery to figure out how to do this, how to get into emotional work that has the likelihood of touching something? Yes, it's mastery to work on doing that. The key to it is not so much not doing it, it's bringing them back out of it. You have to make time when you teach. If you're going to take them into spiritual depth and potentially get them to an emotional place, you have to make sure that you recover them from the emotion, that it's a full lesson that doesn't leave them in the middle. And that means time management in your teaching. Because once people get to a place of spiritual depth, they all want to talk about it and interact. And that's where it kind of, derails a little bit for us in time management. We must make sure that we have time to help people come back, really be grounded. It can be done with a little bit of meditation. Ground yourself back in, let your heart settle down. Allow your divine heart to bring comfort to the human heart. Bring yourself back into a place of deep breath, comfortable, relaxed body, and really remember that you're the divine expressing and that there is nothing happening here that is beyond your abilities. That kind of language bringing people out is really valuable. This is not something that you are expected to do alone, and we'll talk more about how to partner with one another, how to really use your peer relationships, how to build a peer network if you don't have one. So at any time, just quickly, your community can be in one of three places. And your community can be two people you're working with in your office, a board that you're working with, or your whole community on a Sunday morning. They will be either safe and social, and you can really feel safe and social, everybody's good, or there's a little fight or flight going on. There was some bad news in the morning. There was a shooting. There was a something, and you can feel that they're, boy, yeah, they're not quite in their bodies like I'd like them to be today. Got to work on that. Or they can be in shutdown and freeze. We don't see that very often, but I will tell you that shutdown and freeze I dealt with when we had a fire in Colorado Springs that was coming over the mountain and down into very close to the neighborhood where our church was. And people walked in that morning and they were glassy-eyed. They were just not even like, I'm here at church because it's supposed to make me feel better, but I don't even know what to say, because they were afraid. And not only, even if they lived on the other side of town, because that kind of response comes from smoke in the air, because we are biologically built to respond. If there is smoke, it means fire, and fire means get the heck out of here. And so when there's something like that going on, you may see your community, or if something happens in your community, if there is a shooting in your community, if there is a bad car accident in your community, things like that will bring your community to some level of shutdown or freeze. Each of these requires a different response from you. And every Sunday morning, you want to look at your community and say, how are you? How are they doing? Before I even start talking, do they need me to, they're safe and social and we're going to laugh and joke and have a good time? Or are they not fully in their bodies? Do I want to ground them first and bring them here and really let them know that this is safe space this morning? How do I want to respond right now to the overall condition? And that, again, we're ministering in a different time, and that requires different work of us. So let's talk about your nervous system. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor. For me, nervous system is is the difference between telling when I'm in control of my feelings and my body, or when I feel a sense of urgency, because that's the best word for me. That's how it feels in my body. You, when you're dysregulated, might feel angry, or you might feel fearful, or you might feel something entirely different. For me, it it comes up in an interesting way that feels like, what am I going to do now? Right? So it's urgency that I deal with. And when I feel that, then I know that I'm not regulated in my own body. So the words, all is well, remind me that there's not very much in the world that I can't handle, that I need to slow down and be present to what's happening, to the other emotions. Hello, Kitty. The other, you can't see this if you're watching the recording, but we just had a kitty walk across the screen. Um, I have to I have to use words that remind me of my own ability. I mean, we are trained ministers. We are not ministers thrown out of the wagon as somebody drove past the church. We are trained ministers, and we can regulate our systems. And there's some really good tools for doing that. One is a sigh, which often for us happens naturally. Whew, that's a big one, right? That sigh comes almost naturally. You can use it intentionally because when you sigh, it tells your nervous system, I got this. I'm okay. I can move this. To also to find yourself in the room by moving your head, by just noticing where you are. Because when we're dysregulated, we are often dissociated. We're not really fully in our body. We're floating around somewhere around it, or we're in this much of it, or we're in this much of it, but we're not really fully in the body. So orienting to the room and then doing a sense check-in. What do I see? Some people do 5 things that I see in the room. What do I see? What does the air feel like? What's the temperature of my body? Ooh, it's warm in here. What does it feel like? What did I eat recently? Do I still taste onions from last night? What are you tasting? Which is a really interesting check-in, just as a side note, because sometimes you're tasting something that is like, why am I tasting bananas? I haven't had a banana in a month. It's a really interesting thing to check in and just notice what your taste buds are doing when you aren't eating. But tasting, hearing, right? And what can you put your hand on? Like I'm putting my hands on my desk, which is nice and cool. So I just have the awareness of cool. Those things help us to get back in our body. We are using our body. We have to pay attention to what it's doing to answer what my 5 senses want me to answer. So it has a way of filling us all back in and letting us bring ourselves fully and completely to this moment. And all of that is self-regulating. All of those tools, which are easy things once you practice them. So like anything else, if we want to deal with trauma, we have to practice. That means on any given Sunday morning, you can use these tools before you start your your morning service, or before you go into a board meeting or any other time. But if you never use these tools and you don't keep them top of mind, they're much harder to access. So I want to encourage you to just notice where your nervous system is. Go before you go into a board meeting is a really good time to do it because we never know what's happening in there until we get in there, right? So just doing it and self-regulating before you walk in as a regular practice will give you these tools instantly to be able to use when you actually really, really need them. Compassion fatigue is something that we've all heard about. Compassion satisfaction is what makes us ministers. And there's a really big difference between them. You can tell when you've slid into passion fatigue, when you don't want to take pastoral counseling sessions, when you feel flat. I'm here, but nothing is really touching me. I'm not feeling like I usually do. Or also when you feel resentment. Compassion fatigue will give you resentment. And resentment is an interesting thing to notice because you may not notice it right in the minute that you're being compassionate. For me, it was always if somebody walks in the door and says, I know you're busy, but, and in my head, I'm like, then why are you asking me? If you know I'm busy. When I hear that voice in my head, that is a sure sign I need some self care, right? There's something more happening here. Because yes, I might be really busy, but I never want the people I'm in service to feel that I'm too busy for them because they are the whole reason I'm there. So noticing the things that tell you when you're in compassion fatigue, that's important for you to know about yourself so that you get that reminder right away, self-correct. Got to do something here. I need a break. I was listening to something this morning about Nietzsche that said he taught about uh, what the importance of having what he called compassion hibernation, or no, strategic hibernation. So you have to have periods of strategic hibernation to be able to really make space to take care of yourself. And I really like those words. I think those words would be really valuable in a winter lesson. Take some strategic hibernation. Don't turn off your phones, turn off everything, and take care of yourself. Compassion satisfaction you've all felt when you feel when somebody tells you their story and you feel moved by who they are, when you have a clear boundary between witnessing and absorbing, and you're also completely with them in service and really understanding what they're feeling. And when you have that sense of this is why I do this work, because my simple presence here is helpful. That's compassion satisfaction. And it's important for us to notice that because it keeps us happy with our job. Because when we fail to notice the things that happen that are what brought us here, it's easy to feel like, wow, this job has a lot of weight. And it does. This is this is a much more strenuous, difficult job than a lot of people realize, especially the people that are watching it from the outside. But you are not. And noticing moments of satisfaction in the work that you do will make you stronger, will help you straighten your spine and stay soft in the front. And all of that matters. When we are speaking, and this is a list to come back to, there are ways to speak and ways not to speak. Let go and let God is not something that we use very often, but it does fall out of ministers' mouths. And that's really different than saying, what would it feel like if you put this down for just a moment and allowed yourself to look at the joy you're having with your son who's in town visiting, or the nice time you're going to have with your partner out at dinner tonight? What if you could just set this down for a moment and give yourself the gift of some pleasure in life? And you can come back to this, but it will give you a little bit more balance. That kind of conversation is valuable. Everything happens for a reason is something you will hear come out of their mouth as opposed to your own, to really stop them there and say, yeah, and the pain you're feeling is real and it deserves your attention and our time. That really matters because it's a numbing agent. Everything happens for a reason. I'm just being a baby. I need to get past this, right? Have you thought about forgiveness? You should forgive somebody. That that conversation about forgiveness is a hard one anyway. We've all at some point or another confronted that, and depending upon how long you've been in ministry, you've probably had it come up in conversation several times. To give people permission to understand that forgiveness happens in small alterations on your path. It's very rarely a big thing that you do. I forgive you, it's over. No, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Forgiveness happens in micro adjustments inside yourself and in your relationships with other people. And so giving people permission to slow down, really valuable. And forgiveness can be a big one when there's old trauma getting kicked up by new trauma. Trust the process. Yeah, okay. But most of the time when we're in trauma, we're out of trust. So asking people to be in trust is a really hard thing to do when they're in a trauma response. What they really need is to understand that there's probably some level of trust broken, and it takes some time to rebuild trust. And it's okay to feel untrusting. If you can identify it, it helps. And this space of how we handle when something needs to be referred out, that is way over my pay grade. I can't help you with that. Remember when I was talking to you about not startling the nervous system? This person is in space energetically with you, and there is a connection in your energy fields that they're feeling because you are open-hearted to them and they're bringing their open heart in the room. And when you have to pull back in some way from that connection, if it's not done right, it can drop people. Literally, it's like, maybe this is relatable to some of you. If you've ever been in a concert or there's a band playing and something breaks and the music stops and you were out there dancing and having a great time and it just stopped and you feel like you energetically fell. Like, what just happened here? When we pull back after relationship and trust has been created, and we have to say, this is beyond what I'm trained to do, how we do that is incredibly important because it can feel like you've dropped somebody and they can feel like their trust was broken. They were relying on you to be their person, and now you're saying they need another person. So, the most important thing that needs to happen in that conversation is to help them understand you are going to walk with them and help them find somebody. And they might know someone. You can say, maybe you know someone. I am not trained in addiction therapy. And I really believe that this situation would benefit from the guidance of someone who is better qualified to have conversation with you about tools and practices that might help you to deal with your own addiction, to deal with an addiction in your family, whatever that is. I have some people I can recommend. Maybe you have someone you'd like to see. And I, of course, am going to remain present to you. Sometimes people don't want to work with two people at one time, and we don't have to. But you know that I'm here every Sunday. You know that I'm a phone call away, and you know that I'm present to what you're going through. So, is there someone that we could call? Would you like to make a phone call together, or would you like a list of names? That feels like I'm not leaving. I'm right here, and we need something more. And that process is incredibly important, and it requires you to do some homework. It requires that you begin putting together a list of people that you feel comfortable referring, which is a pain in the butt to do. And it's a really important thing to do. It's really, really important. And you can do some of it by surveying your community and asking, does anybody have a great dentist they recommend? Anybody have a great therapist they recommend? Anybody have a great mechanic they recommend? It doesn't have to be just therapists, but when you create that survey and you create a list, it's available in the office and it's more than just who's doing great therapy. But at least you can tell that someone is working with someone and has been working with them and has had good luck with them. You don't have to take the time to call every person and vet them. That is a really good way to have resources for your community. And it's a relatively easy thing to do. When you design your service, you're going to consider your language. And one of the things I just want to hit on is there's a difference between saying, I want you to, you should, we all should, or I invite you to consider. We do this in meditation. We say, if you're comfortable, close your eyes. This is a safe environment. And if you'd be more comfortable, leave your eyes open and just bring your gaze to the floor as I invite you into this quiet time, right? We do that because not everybody feels safe yet, or they just might not feel safe that morning. that kind of language and invitation versus direction allows people freedom of choice, and freedom of choice makes them feel more safe. It's expansive. So to use the language of invitation is really valuable. To look at your physical environment, and this is a really big one, like lighting and chairs, and can people get to their seat easily? But here's one that I'll invite you to challenge your community with. Has it happened in your community that someone has walked in and sat in somebody else's seat? This is where me and my husband always sit. This is where me and my best friend always sit. And we think in our head as ministers, nobody's ever going to say that. But I promise you, it happens. It happened to my mom about a year ago that she was out of town. She's Catholic. She went to a different Catholic church and she found a place to sit. And my mom is 86. And this other little old woman walked up next to her and said, "You can't sit there. That's my chair." And my mom got up and left. She left the church because she felt so uncomfortable and so unwelcome. So having that conversation with your congregation can happen in this way. And if you haven't done this, this is a fun exercise. Wait until service starts and everybody's in their chair. And then say, we're going to try something new this morning. I want you to have a new perspective. If you're used to sitting in the front, I want you to go at least 4 rows back. If you're used to sitting in the back, I invite you to come to the front. You can go to the other side of the room, but everybody switch chairs now. And have them, you will be surprised. They'll all be like, what? Then you have to do a little work to get them all safe again. But that's a really great way to have conversation about the value of different perspectives, and also to talk about how welcoming we are. What if you come in and someone else is sitting in your seat? Instead of feeling resentment, can you say, "Oh, I know they've got a great view there. I'm going to sit just to the side, or I'm going to move over here. I'm so glad to see that they're here. And maybe next week I'll come a little earlier." Right? But that physical environment and how people relate to it and where they hold ownership and how tight they are in one place and teaching them to be safe in all spaces is really valuable. Ritual and ceremony can be really moving on all different kinds of ceremonies. And we have a tendency to turn down lights, to light candles, to have incense, to do all kinds of things in ceremony that sometimes are triggering to people. Sometimes they don't feel as safe with the lights down. Or sometimes a particular fragrance has a connotation for them that we're not aware of. So just know that. I know that we do a limited amount of ceremony, but more and more people are looking for things for spiritual experiences. And experience comes from ceremony. It's very deeply experiential and moving for people. And in that place, it's important for us also mostly to just explain why. I've turned the lights down so that we can feel a little bit more intimacy in this room. I've lit candles so that you have a focal point that you can really kind of allow your eyes to connect to. This particular incense came from here, and I chose it because of this. And here's what the spiritual connection is for me. Those kinds of conversations are really important. And more than ever, with all the Epstein stuff going on and all kinds of stuff going on, it's important for us to think about our pastoral work and how we use our body in relationship with other people's. Permission to touch. May I place my hand on your shoulder while we do this prayer? May I hold your hands while we do this prayer? Would you like to hold hands or would you rather not? Either one is really fine with me. Those kinds of conversations, sometimes when we are in fight or flight in particular, we cannot touch. We feel like if I touch, I'm going to zap somebody. I need to just hold my energy right here. And the same can be true for you, especially if you're going through some kind of really deep thing. I experienced this when I lost my dad. I had that flatness of like, I just could not take one more emotional connection because the emotional connection circuit was was frazzled, it was frayed. And so I often would say to people who came up ready for a hug, thank you so much. I'm not in a place to hug today. I hope you understand we really honor that here for one another. And I just have some emotional stuff going on. Most of the time, people were really understanding of that. And sometimes, even if they're not understanding of that, you have to do it for yourself because you have to take care of yourself. You signed a piece of paper that promised you would. And knowing when to hold your energy to yourself is a really big, big piece of self-care. And that is, you will be a much better minister because you took care of yourself. I love this. You are the container and not the content, right? I am holding this space for you. You may bring in whatever is going on, like water in this bowl, and I will hold the water, but I am not the water. I am simply here to hold this space. It's what we talked about, the difference between empathy, sympathy, and compassion. We're in witness consciousness. We're watching. We are oftentimes brought to empathy and not in sympathy and actually working towards compassion. We use our breath to separate when we feel too connected. Breathe in, bring myself all back. I'm here to witness, to be present to this, not to take this on. It takes practice. I mean, I don't know how it was for you guys, but growing up, I could watch somebody on TV crying and cry with them, right? It happens so easy. When you find yourself there and you're starting to tear up, a deep breath and remembering who you are and that you're witnessing and not feeling, not going with them, but holding, not the water, is really, really helpful for staying balanced and actually being able to help. Because if you start going down the deep, dark hole, now you're sitting across from someone. And since we have so many caretakers in the world, they may actually feel like they need to take care of you. Oh gosh, I'm sorry I upset you by that comment. No, 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 you didn't upset me. It's all right. If it happens, yes, we all have things in life. And, thank you for that. I'm really here for you right now. And it just touched my heart because I have something similar. So thank you for being caring. Let's go back to and ask a question to bring the focus back and bring them back to themselves. And having a 24-hour rule is priceless. We feel urgent. We feel a need to do something. Something is wrong. I got to jump in. If you can give it 24 hours at any time, give it that time, because 24 hours will help you, and jumping in right now most of the time does not help them. Supervision and peer support. Do you have someone you can call who is there for you, who will be present to you? Your service that you do is not your spiritual practice. Being a minister is not your spiritual practice. It feels like it is because it involves study and thought and effort, but it's not the same as sitting in a kirtan and singing until you've raised the vibration of who you are, or sitting in meditation in your home where it's safe and you're not responsible for anybody, or going to your favorite yoga class and stretching and moving your body in a new way. Those are spiritual practices for you. You have to have those right now. You have to put them on your schedule and make time for them. And if you're not, it's because you're not blocking the time out. So the first trick is put it on your calendar. And the second trick is actually do it. It's really important. The body is really where ministry lives. This presence takes being in the body. So taking care of the body, walking a little bit every day. When you're in the office all day and you've got lots of appointments, taking even a 10-minute walk will clear your head and your heart and let you start again. If you need it, get therapeutic support yourself. There is no shame as a minister in working with someone who can help you. I I do a wailing often in October, and a wailing is a grief ceremony. And some of the people that I invite to that ceremony are actual therapists, because therapists, for example, I have one who comes every time I do it, who works with Vietnam vets, and specifically with Vietnam vets. And so he's working with older men who have long-term trauma and have horrible stories they're finally ready to tell because they need to tell somebody before they die. And so the things he hears are really hard for him. And he comes to the wailing as a way of releasing all of that once a year. Just let that go, wail it out. Yes, it's horrifying. Yes, it's traumatizing. Yes, it's difficult. And yes, it has energy. So there are all different kinds of therapeutic support that can happen. And I am going to do this year a class, a personal class. This will not be through the region. I'm going to do a class on whalings so people can understand a little bit more about how to create space for that. So if you find that it's something you'd like to know more about, just ping me, send me a little email, and I'll make sure that you hear when I do that. Because a whaling is a really unique way of getting people to actually be able to release some things that they carry really deep in their body and don't really know how to access. Knowing what's yours and what's somebody else's. This is ministry school, all these things. We heard all of these things, right? But being reminded you have boundaries and not everything is yours to do. And um, and there is a place for you to send people out beyond what, to deal with things that you're not trained for, no matter how much you may have life experience. If you're not trained for how to do that, you probably shouldn't be doing it. The deliberate pursuit of happiness. What are you deliberately doing for yourself to experience joy? Because if there is no joy in your life, how are you going to teach joy? Deliberately getting out there and pursuing it is important. Knowing when to refer. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because we get a lot of this, but at least know that you are a mandatory reporter. Be reminded of that, and be reminded that even when we don't judge people for behaving badly because they're going through emotional trauma or emotional triggers, we're still responsible no matter how their trauma is showing up. We're still responsible for reporting child abuse and for directly confronting suicidal ideation and those kinds of things. So come back and review this list, but no, you know this list already. Remember that these things have to be addressed no matter how compassionate you're feeling for someone's trauma situation. And have practices in your daily protocol. How do you start your day? If you've been with me in this class for any length of time, you've heard me say this before. When you walk in, do you do a 5-minute body scan? Do you check what your state of being is? Do you have an aromatherapy spray you can just start your day with? To go, I'm creating separate space. I'm stepping into ministry. I'm praying for myself and inviting all the guidance of the divine to work through me, as me, and all around me in everything that I do today. And a fragrance that you like, frankincense or rose or blue lotus or something that you're like, wow, that feels good. Okay, I'm ready. That little simple thing, really good. You can do it in the beginning of the day. You can do it in the end of the day. I'm complete now. I'm leaving behind any residual, anything I picked up. I'm inviting the divine to take that off my shoulders now so that I can bring my non-ministerial self home. Because as much as we think being a minister is who we are 24 hours a day, it's really important for us to take the stole off, literally and proverbially, and to be real people who sometimes have a margarita and sometimes get mad. It's really important for us to be human. So having an end of the day practice is really important. In a really busy day, it's valuable to have that midday break, go for a walk, do some psi work, do something nourishing for your soul and yourself so that you can really be present and do good work for your community. And because you are first and foremost accountable to you to take care of yourself. You are responsible for you. You were gifted with the presence of you to take care of you. It's a really good gift. You were entrusted in really good hands if you choose to be that person for yourself. You were never meant to do this work alone. This is not work we can ever do alone, which is why we have classes like this so we can see each other's faces and remember that we're not alone. Make sure you know who your best friend is. Who do you get to talk to? And she's never going to think of you, or he's never going to think of you as a minister. Maybe somebody you went to high school with, or somebody who's known you. Who knows you outside of your ministry? You have to have that. You have to have peers who really understand your job. And that's going to be another minister, because nobody understands ministry without having done it. It's too nuanced. So who are your minister friends that you can call and go, I just had a really difficult situation come up. I have two of mine are in this room. Jackie and Brenda are two of mine, and the three of us have traded all kinds of interesting stories about ministry as it happens. It matters to have people you can just call and go, oh my God, help me, just listen, just hear me for a minute. Has this ever happened? Am I the most unique person? Is this the most unique ministry in the world, or has something like this happened? It's good. It's really good. Take your continuing education. There are lots of trauma-wise education opportunities out there. Lots of things online. You can just open YouTube and say nervous system regulation, and you'll get a ton of potential things you can watch in 20 minutes to help keep you on your toes, and create a congregation-wide culture that recognizes trauma as part of what we're doing right now, as part of how we make the world whole again, as part of the evolution of spiritual beings, is to deal with the human trauma that we've been carrying. So if you're getting triggered right now, that's okay. We're here for you. We're your community. We're glad you're here. And we have some tools. Let me know if you need something personal, right? Really important. So these are questions for you to ask yourself. Where in your ministry are you absorbing rather than witnessing? This can happen with your board, hint, hint. This can happen with your prayer chaplains, hint, hint. This can happen wherever you're dealing with a lot of stuff, where you're in it instead of standing back and seeing it happen and being able to be in compassion and a wise guide rather than immersed in the problem. What is one process that you begin or return to that you can do this week? What is one thing you can do for yourself to help stay regulated and calm? Go make an aromatherapy spray. I'm telling you, it's so good. It's such a great tool. Feels good. You're going into summer, that light mist, it's just water and essential oil. But that light mist even is like, refreshing, hydrate my skin, all the good stuff. Okay? Do something this week. Put a 10-minute walk on your calendar. Do something this week, because coming to this class is great. But if you don't take it into your life, you could have used this time to listen to your favorite 70s album. Okay? It needs to be alive in your life. So do something this week. Who in your life helps you stay regulated and resourced? You actually do need to identify who that is. And then reach out and make contact just to say thank you. You know, you really do help me like regulate my system and feel like I'm not alone in the world. And I'm just taking a minute right now to say thank you, because the next time I call you, I might need you to do that. But I'm good right now. I'm just feeling gratitude for you. And you too. I feel gratitude for you too. Thank you. What referrals do you need to make that you have been putting off? Who are you pastoral counseling that really, you know, it's gone beyond what you can handle? Is it time to make a referral? And give that some thought. Sometimes we don't have any, and sometimes we're like, oh, I know exactly who that is, and I haven't been doing it. your first step is to make sure you have someone to refer them to. So take the steps to do this. And do this because this is how you take care of yourselves. This is what is necessary to really do the job that brought you to ministry in the first place. You came here to support people. You came here to care for them, to guide them, to be a living presence for them, to help them really come into contact with the living presence of the divine that exists within them. And if you fail to, and I don't use the word fail very often, if you fail to engage in the steps that take care of you, then you will be less equipped to do what you came here to do, what your soul wants you to do, what the entire universe has your back to do. You just have one job: take care of you. Okay? I love you. I appreciate you in ways you can't even begin to imagine. I feel so blessed to be in service to this group and so honored to walk next to you. So honored that we all get to do this. Will make me tearful. So honored that we get to do what we do, right? It's good stuff. So I hope you have a wonderful, amazing rest of your month. And in the middle of the month, on the Wednesday in the middle of the month, the third Wednesday, we get together back in this forum to talk about this. And that's the time that you bring real situations or real questions or even suggestions. A lot of times people will come back and go, I just really want to share this tool that I'm using, or talk about the fact that I need to find a peer and I don't have one yet. How do you do that? Whatever it is you need, that middle space is not recorded. This is recorded so that we can share it. But the time together at the middle of the month is very close, intimate, caring for each other time and helping each other and supporting each other and bringing what's going on for us to the table. So I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks if you're available. And if not, I'll see you next month. And I love you and have a brilliant, amazing Mother's Day, those of you that are moms.
Thank you, Ariana.